DM Dango here with another review from the DM's Guild. This time we have A King to an Empty City. So, King to an Empty City, what is it? It is an adventure module designed for a party of 4 to 6 of about 8th level. I would probably recommend if you had a party of 4, probably maybe bumping that minimum up to 9. Probably not 10 though. 10 starts to get a little crazy with certain abilities and you kind of get a little overpowered for the challenges that are presented inside of this and some of the things that are presented as a kind of way. A lot of this stuff though looks like, in terms of what's in there, it's also presented as kind of a one-shot, and at the same time it gives you the ability to add in plot hooks into your own longer term adventures. In fact, I might even use this one in my existing campaign once my adventures have finished Tomb of Annihilation, just because of kind of where it goes and kind of some of the thoughts and things like that I think you can pull out of it and eke out of it. And going on to that as well, some of the ideas and themes presented in this are really, really good. I really like them. One of the ones is what happens when you wish someone for immortality and they start like living and living and living and living and living, and then all of a sudden get to a point where there's no point in existing anymore. This idea gets touched on recently. There's a very good show, Altered Carbon, which kind of touches on this idea. It's like, well, if you were an immortal, you would basically be corrupted very easily and very quickly. After a certain amount of time, the only thing that prevents man, or I guess in this case all sentient races, from being corrupted is the idea that eventually their lives will end. It's the greatest kind of thing that's prevented evils of the world from perpetuating for all eternity. Now, whether you subscribe to this idea or subscribe to the idea that maybe man would be able to, or not just man, but all the sentient races would be able to go beyond this limitation and be able to ascend to a higher ethical plane of existence, that's a whole nother discussion that's beyond the scope of D&D, I think. But it's an interesting idea that's presented in the thing. And there are multiple NPCs that kind of bring this idea about and kind of how it works and kind of both sides of the coin. Kind of one's your ally and another's your enemy. That was one of the things I did like, those kind of ideas around immortality. That was a very good thing. Now, some stuff that I didn't like was the premise of the story. So if you, even from the title, there is an empty city and there's a king. Well, there is an empty city. Now, the author doesn't take the time to kind of go through and say, well, how do I describe an empty city? What does that look like? What does it look like when an entire city's population has been removed? Now, I'm not going to spoil anything and say, they died or anything like that, but I'm just going to say they were removed. If any players are watching this and they're trying to encourage their DMs to use good modules from the DM's Guild, this is one that I would definitely pick out as one that you should encourage your Dungeon Master to pick up and to potentially play. It is a really, really good one. But anyways, I digress. He doesn't take the time to kind of explain to a DM how to describe this kind of concept of, it's essentially a post-apocalyptic wasteland, kind of. It's like the very early stages of what would happen, because you arrive, I think it's like a couple of weeks after the event, I will call it, and then you get there and nobody's there, and the whole premise is you walking around this town and there's no one to help you, no one to serve you, and all the townspeople and everything else gone. There's no sign of a struggle or anything like that. It's just they're gone. So some hints and key things to say, you find half-eaten food, you find child's toys that are just on the ground in the middle of buildings. You find the streets, the street carts and the street like stalls standing with no. They look like there should be a person there serving food. In fact, there's coins on the ground where maybe somebody just vanished or disappeared. Those kinds of things would have been nice to see as a part of description to give it that kind of abandoned, emptied feel, to kind of help the DM to kind of paint that picture better. Now, the picture that is painted is a very good one, though. The descriptions that are in there are very well done, but I think it doesn't press enough on the point of no one is here, no one has been here for at least a couple of weeks, and the event that happened meant that they just disappeared, kind of thing. Moving on to other things I did like, because that's a minor criticism, to be fair. Any DM worth his salt can easily create these kinds of things. I just did it on the fly, essentially. And if a DM were going to use this module, they would probably, if they were, depends on the kind of DM they are, but they might want to take the time to write out more descriptions in that kind of vein to give those kinds of atmospheric effect. The atmosphere that is built, though, around that idea, I really like. I really like the idea that you have a town and you have a mystery that revolves around the ideas of finding clues and hints and things to work out what's happened to the town, what you can do about it, and how you can solve it. Now, it is split into two parts. There's a town part and there's a castle part. And the idea behind how the castle works, I really love, and I don't want to spoil that either, but it's really genius, kind of like, the best description is it's a MacGuffin, and it's amazing in terms of the way it functions and the way that they built a society around that. The author's taken the time to kind of understand how this would work and how a society built around the specific type of thing would function. It's really well thought out in terms of that side of things. It's like, well, we found this power, we found this thing. So, like, for instance, in the case, a good example is if you have a society that finds, let's just say a material that reverses gravity, for instance. Well, how would that society function? What would it look like? What would they use it for? What would they do with it? And those kinds of questions get kind of answered in this kind of thing, in this module, where they find a similar thing that does something that they go, oh, well, it does this, it affects these things. And there's some really cool bits. And there's like one that I really like. The graveyards actually are thematically very interesting and to how they work. And from the evocative imagery that you would conjure as a DM to a player, it would be something you would never have thought possible. Very, very well done in that regards. Now, in terms of who I recommend this for, I think this is pretty good for a first-timer DM who wants a more higher-level adventure, something that they want to be able to control more interesting monsters, and the players want to have a more interesting kind of have access to more interesting power as a one-shot. Now, as a part of a longer campaign, it definitely slots right into that. You do have to remember to build in those plot hooks and things, go here, here, and here, and here. But the author calls those out really easily. Say, here, put a plot hook here, and put a plot hook here, and put a plot hook here. Very well done on his part. Are the encounters balanced for that level? Are they balanced for level 8 and level 9? I think at the lower end of the party scale that it's recommended for, I think level 9 is probably a better choice. At the 6 people, level 8 is probably okay. But 4 people, some of the encounters, I think you're looking at a TPK in certain areas kind of thing. And there are some hints into how to balance it out, to use certain NPCs more or less based on this kind of thing. But I think for that regard, it needs its own thing. One other thing I will mention that I do like to see from all authors who are writing things for DM's Guild. So the original copy I reviewed had a number of minor formatting issues and editing things and stuff like that, where parts of the page have been put on the wrong state. Those have not since been fixed, and that's a good thing. I like to see it when an author goes back into their work and goes, oh, I can fix that. I can make that better. I can do it again. I can kind of, fix these minor formatting issues. And so it shows that they're willing to improve and grow as an author. It also shows that they're willing to take feedback well, which is good. And it's just a general kind of thing. I think the only thing lacking from the adventure is kind of like what I said before, is that atmospheric building kind of thing. It does include all of the maps necessary to run the adventure as well. And while they are simplistic, they are still really well done in terms of showing you what a player might want to see or might want to know. The maps are not as full-featured as things you get in, say, the Tomb of Annihilation modules or any of the Wizards of the Coast stuff, but they get the job done more than sufficiently. Now, and finally, in terms of my rating, I've been reviewing adventures now for 3 weeks now, and I keep surprised by different methods and the way things are done. But based on the other adventures that I've viewed and the kind of level of talent and skill that I've been seeing on the DM's Guild, it's always getting better, obviously. I think I'm going to rate this at a 4. There's nothing structurally wrong with it, which is a good sign. There are modules, there are things that would bump it up to 5. Now, here's the thing. Building in more of the atmospheric side of things, increasing your kind of range and saying, well, why is kind of painting the picture of an empty town, painting a picture of an abandoned castle, painting a picture, that big group of things kind of knocks it down a little bit. The maps could use more fleshing out in terms of kind of putting incidentals like dresser drawers and physical items and things like that. The Mike Sheely kind of style of drawings. Those might be nice to have as well and kind of bump it up to that really polished level, really high level. So yeah, so my final rating, 4 out of 5. Thank you. Please do remember to like and subscribe on this video and leave a comment letting me know what else should I review, what else should I look at. Is there something of yours that's your favorite thing on the DM's Guild that you really want to see me have a go and have a read through. I should point out this is the author's very first attempt, and for a very, very first attempt, it is incredibly well done. For that, I would venture to guess that a lot of other authors and creators in the DM's Guild would have loved to have something of this quality on the DM's Guild as their first go. So, well done. Thank you. Peace out.